Hi, this is Steve with iFLOW. Welcome to our video series. In this segment, we're going to be looking at the test results that we've achieved with iFLOW. First, we'll look at the Canadian test results. So, in Canada, the CSA has developed a standard for testing combination systems. It's called the P.9-11 standard. It issues a TPF, or a thermal performance factor, as a result, and that is a weighted value of 3 numbers on the heating side, and then it's combined with the domestic water side using the 1 hour rating to give you a combined efficiency number. So the space heating weightings somewhat confirm what GTI and the Natural Resources Canada distribution load, the heating loads, indicate, in that the efficiency scored when we're running at 100% only weighs for 10% of your total score, because the unit's rarely going to run at that input, right? Because it's so high. The efficiency that we scored at 40% equates to 60% of our score. So again, we're saying, hey, we're going to be running at 40% of our input the majority of the time. And then when we're running at very low loads, so 15% of our heating capacity, that will account for 30% of our score. So if you look, 90% of our score is below 40%. 40% of a 60,000 BTU furnace, which is the #1 selling SKU in North America, 40% of that is 24,000 BTUs. So the majority of our score is calculated at 24,000 BTUs and below. So again, it does confirm the GTI numbers, and it does reflect the numbers that we see in the studies put out by the Canadian government. So, all to say that the score, the TPF number, is a balance weighting of these three scores plus the water heating side. We do not consider the AFUE number much. You know, if you wanted to consider that, let's say running at a kind of 100%, that only weighs 10% of the score. So in these results, iFLOW scored 4 of the top 6 results are iFLOW. We scored a TPF, the highest TPF of any manufacturer in North America. This is a TPF of 0.98, and that was our score with the Navien tankless, the 180A. We scored a 0.98, or rough 98%, with the Navien NP 180A model. We scored the highest TPF of any air handler manufacturer with Rinnai. We tested with their RU160IN model, and we scored a 0.94, which again is the highest of any manufacturer in North America. So not only did we score the highest of any combi system in North America tested to the P9 standard at 0.98, that was the highest with Navien, and we scored the highest with Rinnai of any manufacturer. So we're pretty happy with those results. Now in the US, GTI has tested our unit. So again, the iFLOW with the Navien MPEA series, and compared it to a 95% 2-stage 60,000 BTU furnace, and you see the performance improvement there in the curve. So above the green, we have the yellow line. So we're pretty happy about that. So both in the Canadian side and on the US side, we're happy with the results that are being posted and presented. Those GTI numbers are outlined in these tables. We have the gas efficiencies, gas consumption, energy costs, and emissions reduction, greenhouse emissions. So the Navien, the iFLOW Navien combination are in yellow, and the furnace with a 0.62 tank, which is let's say their standard build, is in red. So you see that Efficiencies, obviously iFLOW and the Navien are higher. Gas consumption, different. Energy costs, obviously, iFLOW with the Navien is lower, and then obviously the emissions would be lower. So if we take those numbers and convert them roughly into table format, we're looking at each of the different areas. So we have Alabama, California, Wisconsin, Oregon, and New York. If we take the average, we're looking here an average savings of 33%. So this is an average savings. If you select the iFLOW with the Navien NP8 tankless and compare that to a 95% AFUE furnace, 2-stage with a 0.62 EF water heater, you're going to save roughly 33% a year across North America. So we're not looking at any region in particular. In LA, it looks like you're going to save 47%, but your cost of operating is a little bit less too. So if we take all of the numbers, mash them all together and average it, 33%. So across the US, you would likely save 33. Now on a 7-year payback period, that would be almost $1,900 worth of savings, $1,862. And on a 10-year payback, we're looking at $2,660. So those are decent numbers. And that's over a 95% 2-stage furnace with a 0.62 energy factor. So for all the builders out there, when you're looking at your spec versus potentially upgrading to an iFLOW Navien, you can easily tell your customer, hey, you can expect to save, regardless of where you are in the country, on average 33%, and that's money in their pocket. So they may pay a little bit higher for the home, although we don't think so. For the equipment, the money's coming back to you in the way of payback. In terms of the emissions side, so let's look at the greenhouse emission reductions. So again, if we're saving 36% on the gas, for example, in Birmingham, it makes sense that we would see a reduction of the same magnitude roughly on the greenhouse side. Why? Because we're using less gas. If we're using less gas here because we're more efficient, less gas means we're polluting less, we're not emitting as much, so those reductions. So again, on average, we're saving 33% on the dollar side. We're seeing the same 30% roughly would be the emissions reduction in terms of GHGs. So again, that's significant. So not only is it greener, it's going to save you money. So then GTI did a report that was commissioned by NEA, and NEA is the Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance, made up of these utility partners and more. They wanted GTI to do an assessment of the iFLOW with the Navien Combi. So what they did is they ran some tests and they basically produced this report. This should all be in quotations because this is directly from their report. But basically it says advanced forced air tankless combi technologies can achieve exceptionally high space heating performance at very low part loads if the combi systems have the following attributes. So attribute number 1, tankless water heater has to be a condensing tankless that condenses even with return water greater than 120. So you need a great secondary heat exchanger with a fully modulating burner. So most of the tankless have the fully modulating burner. It's the return water temperature. So the better your condensing heat exchanger, the better the number will be. Then you have to have 2 domestic water set points. So you have to be able to set the domestic water at 1 and then operate the heating at a second temperature. Number 3, the delta T, or the temperature difference across the air handler, needs to be maximized. So we need to be able to induce condensing and have a comfortable air temperature. So we at iFLOW, we do. That's what we focus on. We maximize the delta T across the coil by controlling the fan speed, and we control the pump speed. So number 4, preheat. So this is basically addressing, so before we start the blower, we want to make sure that the tankless has supplied heat to the coil. So we'll wait until the coil is warm before we start blowing the cold air, or blowing the air across the coil. So that's the preheat. And then the opposite, when we're shutting the unit down, so let's say we've been running in heating mode, the thermostat is satisfied, the thermostat will tell our unit to shut down, but we know there's still heat in the coil itself and in the tankless water heater. So we're going to try and pull the heat out so we don't have to have the tankless exhausted out the flue in terms of wasted heat. So we're going to run the pump through, and we're going to run the blower at low CFM to be able to scrub the last bit of heat off the coil and out of the tankless and deliver it into the space. So we're basically delivering all the BTUs that they've paid for into the home and not wasting anything out. And then short cycling, even at high turndowns, is minimized. So we want to minimize the cycling, and that's what we've been talking about through most of our video series here, is matching the minimum load to the minimum input of the appliance to the minimum heating load, so we can minimize that short cycling. So their conclusion for the report is that iFLOW manufactures the only air handler unit that GTI has identified that uses all 6 of the key attributes. So table 1 shows the 6 attributes. Some air handler units did not have hydronic coils designed to generate enough delta T to induce full tankless water heater condensing. So some of the units didn't generate, they weren't managing the delta T enough, so the delta T was too small. When the return water temperature going back to the tankless was within a certain degree, it really wasn't fully condensing, so their efficiencies were low. So we scored at the top. We're very happy about those results. Not only were we supplying sufficient delta T to condense, but we're also supplying at a decent warm air temperature. If you look at the other manufacturers on the chart, many were insufficient to get the condensing, and that means your efficiency of your system is not going to be in the condensing range or sufficiently condensing, which means you're probably 87% or lower on the heating side, and that's not a great number. For these that are sufficient on the coil, but here if you look at the distribution air temperature, we're delivering at, so the LAT is the leaving air temperature, so the leaving air temperature off the top of the coil, we're delivering at 130 degrees. So when the homeowner feels that temperature at the register, they're going to be comfortable. They're going to like that heat. Some of the others are very low. So if you look at these 3 units, you're well below 100 degrees, which means the delivery temperature at the register in the home is going to be much lower than the homeowner is used to. It's still delivering BTUs, so no question there, but it's going to be at a lower temperature than the homeowner is used to. So the summary. In this independent third-party testing, again, iFLOW scored the highest result of any manufacturer, any air handler manufacturer in North America. When we tested with Navien, we scored at 98%, and with Rinnai at a 94%. And again, we hold 4 of the top 6 rankings on that in that CSA P9 testing category. When we paired the Navien with the iFLOW, or paired the iFLOW with the Navien, and compared it to that 2-stage 95% furnace, efficiency improvements up to 15% were observed, and where the heating demand is most, and that's key. When we paired that 95% 2-stage furnace with a 0.62, or when we paired the iFLOW with the Navien and compared it against that 2-stage 95% AFUE furnace, with a 0.62 energy or 0.62 EF tank type water heater, we had an annual cost savings of 33% and greenhouse emissions of 30% on average across the US in all of the 5 different locations that they simulated. And then when iFLOW was compared with other air handlers in the market, iFLOW is the only manufacturer to have employed the 6 key attributes that GTI identified that were able to deliver exceptionally high space heating performance at very low part loads. So that's the summary of the third-party testing. We're pretty happy with those results. I think if you look at the results in Canada, the results in the US, they're saying the same thing, that we're getting very high efficiencies when we pair with the Navien or with the Rinnai. I think we can do the same thing with any combi boiler that has an AFUE of 95 and a very good low minimum input. We could probably even get into this gold area. So I look at this gold area as kind of our gas industry R&D homework, right? If we can get up into this area, that would be improvement. So if we can get such that we're delivering at 6,000 BTUs, but we're delivering at 97, 98%, that would be ideal. So we have some work to do. I think when we pair the iFLOW with a low input boiler that can modulate, let's say, down to 6,000 BTUs at an AFUE of 95%, we could easily hit this range, this number, or maybe even a little higher. So we can do better, and we will continue to strive to do better in our development, in our testing. But so far, we're happy with the results. What I do want to say is that when you, as a homeowner, when you're considering which appliance you should go with, I think these results show that the iFLOW in combination with an appropriate heat source can actually perform better than your furnace in many cases. So don't discount it because it's a combi system. They can be very, very efficient. They can be very, very they can be great performers. Again, we can do the zoning and the modulation. So we get the full modulation with our zoning package. It could be a great comfort solution for your home. So again, I want to thank you for your time. Hopefully the presentation was helpful. If you have any questions or feedback, iflowhvac.com, or you can reach me by email, by toll free, or on my cell phone. So again, thank you for your time. We appreciate your interest in iFLOW, and thank you for your attention.